Hi, I'm remaking an old game, and this time around I'm going to finish up the second half of the player's combat turn system. If you want more details about what I'm talking about, you should check out my previous short, where I go over my plans for the system. But before I got started on that, I added a change to my game. Now when you select an enemy to attack, the camera will now pan over to that enemy's location. It's not a huge change, but I think it's a nice one. Now on with the spells. My main idea for spells is that they'll be like the bro attacks from the Mario and Luigi series. Basically, there'll be little mini games that you play, and doing well enough will make the attack deal more damage. So I started working on it. And first, I started adding the new spell to the combat menu. It was a simple process, and off to the side, I made it so that there's a description of the attack, and towards the bottom there's instructions on how the minigame works. Next, I began working on the minigame itself. For this one, you have to connect the dots in order. After that, I added a 15-second timer, and now you have to connect the dots as many times as you can before the time runs out. Next, I attach it to the spell that the character has. I polished up the art a bit, made a few animations, and now here's what the spell attack looks like now. Next up was the items menu. This one was the most simple to do, and I got it done in an afternoon. And now the player can heal from damage. However, you can't really tell that since the player's health isn't displayed. That's because I never gave them health. In fact, the player doesn't even have any stats that you'd see in a standard RPG. Even worse, neither do the enemies. So when you're using a skill like Charm on an enemy, you're doing nothing to them since they don't even have a stat to be lowered. So I gave the player and enemy stats. And now that they have stats, I now have to calculate the damage an attack does, since the amount of damage you do now depends on the player's attack and level, and the enemy's defense and level. But I had no idea how to even go about calculating something like that. So I did some searching online and found this. This was a page explaining the damage calculator from the Mario and Luigi games. And since my combat system is similar to that series, I borrowed the code. And now the player does damage relevant to their stats. And now if you use Charm on an enemy, you can actually see a difference in damage being dealt. I even made it so that in the star minigame, the launch attack does more damage the better you do in the minigame. And finally, now that the player has health, eating an item actually does something. And the very last thing I added for now was a chest you can open. Chests like these will have things such as consumable items and armor sets you can find. And that's all I have for now. Next time, I'll be working on the enemy's turn when it comes to combat, so stay tuned for that. Actually, you really don't, since I decided to open up a Discord server. And in there, you can see what I've been working on, you can talk about the game, and you can even show off any projects you've been working on. So check it out if you want. Link will be in the description below. Okay, bye.